to the NXT Podcast, your home for weekly NXT reviews and insight.
The beautiful part of NXT is that when one dream ends, another dream begins.
Find all of your NXT news, recaps, and analysis right here. So with that being said, we only have one question for you.
Are you ready?
We thought so. Let's get the show started right now.
All right. Hi, Mama.
Hey, baby.
How are you?
Well, doing just fine. Thank you. Merry Christmas.
And to you as well. I like that I started this as if you and I had not been talking all morning about doing this. I don't know why I did that. I'm not lying to the people. We set this up yesterday and then had to go through some technical difficulties to get this set up. But as I said, I thought it would be fun to talk to my mom. Not only is my mom gave birth to me, but she is somebody that indulged me in my wrestling habit as a youngin'. Had to buy me a lot of fake championship belts so that I could walk around the house pretending that I was indeed the world heavyweight champion. And then was kind of my first fan on this here podcast deal. She also got me the microphone with which I talk to you great people. Now, Mom, you have not watched wrestling in a long time. You are from like the Dusty Rhodes era of wrestling when you were a fan as a kid. And like the Jack Briscoe era when you saw him live. So I had you watch this episode of NXT. You hear me talk about it every week, but you haven't watched it. So how did you feel watching it, and how did you feel about how it's kind of different and maybe the same in some other ways since, the Dusty Rhodes, Jack Briscoe, Ric Flair era?
Well, first of all, I'd like to say there's no way of welcoming Christmas morning than your son making you watch grown people try to kill each other.
In their underwear. Yes, that's correct.
In their underwear. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Well, that's normal, but
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, it was very interesting. So many changes, and it's technologically so advanced. It's hilarious. It's like watching a movie production of something instead of being wrestling. But until they got into the ring, and then it was like, oh no. And then the nurse in me came out.
Yeah, I could see the nurse in you having concerns about some of the stuff that we saw here today specifically.
Absolutely. I kept wanting to run in the ring and say, stop, wait.
It's the funny thing because wrestling is predetermined and worked out beforehand, but people stay away from the F word. In this case, we love the F word, but the F word being fake because, yeah. Well,
you scared me there for a minute.
Yeah, I know, right? I think I scared Matt when he's listening back to this. Don't worry, Matt. I'm nothing but a professional. That's why I'm talking to my mom. It is definitely, we don't say the word fake because while they are working together to do these things and everything like that, like in this first match, a dude goes through a table to the floor, and I don't care if you cut that table, that's gonna hurt really bad.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's gonna hurt. But you are right. It's the foundations are still the same. The moves have changed and the production values have changed, but for the most part, it's still the same ideas of wrestling. Bad guy makes you hate him, good guy makes you love him, so on, so forth. But this is a pretty good show for me to be talking to you because last week was not as interesting of a show. And frankly, one of my favorite things about wrestling is that if somebody were to walk in on me watching wrestling, it would be very difficult for me to explain to them what I am watching. And we had a few moments like that in this show. So I thought it would be fun, as somebody who is an old school wrestling fan, to kind of go through what we saw on this show. You just finished watching it. I watched it a couple hours ago, and kind of see what you thought. So, Mama, are you down? You good?
Ready.
Ready.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. All right. So we are welcomed in to NXT, the Capital Wrestling Center, by our announcers, and we're starting off hot. Now we start with Oney Lorcan and Danny Burch, the tag team champions. Now, when we talked before, you said those two guys, I haven't seen them around very much. You were absolutely correct. These two dudes are a tag team, who are very good in the ring. They didn't talk much. They were jobbers or enhancement talents, which in wrestling parlance means they're put in there to lose to a team that they're trying to do something with. And basically, they are in a group that does not have a name yet. I have taken to calling them the McAfee Boys because the leader of this group, and I want to preface this by saying I understand what I'm about to tell you is going to sound like I'm making something up, but I want you to understand I'm not. I call them the McAfee Boys because the leader is Pat McAfee, and he is a guy who is very new to wrestling. He's a very good talker. He's still rough in the ring because he is new. He's very good, but Pat McAfee is best known as, oh gosh, he's called NFL games. He's done a lot of broadcasting. He has his own podcast. He has a bunch of shows. But before that, he was a punter in the NFL for the Indianapolis Colts.
Seriously?
I know. See, that's why I prefaced
Wow.
it. Yes, that is correct. He is a punter who's always been a wrestling fan, and he had a match with Adam Cole, the little white dude who was in the last segment, the last match.
Oh, I know who McGee is.
Yeah, All right. See, I knew you'd know. And since that match, he has come back, and he is kind of the leader of this faction, kind of a Bobby Heenan type, a manager that talks a lot and runs away when there's trouble. And they're all in a group together. So these two dudes, Oney Lorcan, Danny Burch, are now our tag team champions. Part of the reason you haven't heard about them is because when they've been on TV, it's been a part of this group. They haven't really been like defending the titles. This is the first time I've seen them defend the titles in a long time. And so we're starting off with a match here. So those two dudes are now in a faction with the former NFL punter who is now here. Yeah. It's fun to have to explain to somebody that doesn't know because it sounds ridiculous coming out of my mouth, and yet it works really well. It's odd. Wrestling's weird. So
And
this
that
is
has not changed.
Yeah, no, it definitely hasn't. It's always been super weird to have to explain to people. It's got to be my favorite part. So this is a tag team title match to start the show, and this is a street fight. Street fight is wrestling and fancy talk for there are no rules. So it'll either be no disqualification or no holds barred or falls count anywhere. These are all names to describe the same thing. You can hit them with weapons. You can get out of the ring. You can do basically whatever you want. So before they can get to the ring, Drake Maverick and Killian Dane, the two who you did recognize, come down and attack them, and we are off. Now, you can tell, a good way to tell it's a street fight in wrestling is if the wrestlers are wearing jeans, it's because it's a street fight. Because, Mom, I don't know if you know this, but if you're in a fight, you can't do it in tights. That would be ridiculous. You need jeans.
I was wondering about that.
Yes, that's how you can tell the difference between a regular old no disqualification and a street fight. Because now, Mom, when you're fighting in the streets, as I've had to tell you a lot, you need to wear jeans because leg protection is key. So yeah, I'm glad that I got you on the show so that we could hash that out because I'm sick. I'm sick of having to tell you that you need to wear jeans first.
Well, I'm sorry, but those men were wearing jeggings. They can call them jeans if they want to.
Okay, so I mean all right. So I see this is another reason it's good you're here because I don't have that kind of insight into jeggings versus jeans. I imagine jean leggings would be more comfortable to do all those moves in, so it kind of works, I suppose. So we're having a fight. It's not a match, it's a fight. But it's interesting because by virtue of it being a street fight, really the only difference is that there aren't any rules. So, in a traditional tag team match, if you and I are a team, if you're fighting in the ring, I have to stand in the corner and I have to wait until you tag me to get in the ring. That's traditional wrestling rules. Now, if there are no rules, I don't understand then why during this match, all of the participants are hitting each other with weapons, but when they get into the ring, they all stand in their corners and wait to be tagged. I can't figure out why there aren't rules, but that's still a rule.
Well, may I say something?
You absolutely may.
I think the reason that Drake Maverick guy was appreciating that, you may have noticed he spent more time on the other side of the ring in his corner because he was getting his ass beat, and he had to get over there so that Killian Dane could go in and beat the other guys up, and then Maverick would all of a sudden be ready to get back in the ring, looking like he needed some oxygen, by the way. And that was hilarious how it was like Maverick kept hiding and then Dane would beat him up and then Maverick would be ready to come back in. But then Dane would have to force him to slap it to get back in the ring. Like, could you do part of the job here?
Yes, that is a hilarious way to do a match, and that is also how these two have operated. They were singles wrestlers, and then Drake Maverick, the little guy, started to come out when Killian Dane was being attacked, and he would run off the people, and Killian Dane would punch Drake Maverick because he's a little guy who's annoying him. and little by little, Drake wore him down, and they became a tag team. And then we didn't get a chance to see it because they just ran out. But their theme music sounds like if there were a sitcom about two best friends that were roommates in the city. Like, it sounds like a sitcom theme. And they've had a lot of segments on the show where Drake Maverick is pitching him different ideas for a tag team, while Killian Dane just wants to fight dudes, and he has to carry Drake for the whole thing. So you are correct. Drake spent a lot of time on the apron, again, because you can't break this one rule that shouldn't be a rule that I, for the life of me, can't figure out. So as you said, they isolate Drake Maverick because he's a lot smaller. Mm-hmm. They put Killian Dane through a table, which is one of the moments I imagine that was hard to stomach for you as a nurse, because there's no way you can do that safe necessarily.
That's right. It was not nice.
It wasn't. And that's the thing, is it wasn't nice is the thing. Is that Oni and Danny are already champions. You're getting in a street fight, and then you go throw somebody through a table, and you don't have to be rude to be winners, you know? That's the thing that really gets me about it. And they isolate Maverick, like I said, because he's smaller, and then they take him out. They basically do a double team. If a suplex and a DDT had a baby, they did that to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they win, and they retain their tag titles. As I said, this is the first time I remember seeing them defend their titles. There's a bit of an issue in NXT with tag teams in that they don't have that many. So they've run through all the matches they can, so I think they're just trying to reload and figure it out as they go.
Well, I thought it was really interesting, the technique of Drake Maverick when so Killian had gotten knocked out, put through the table, and he was hurting, and then he's all by himself. Maverick has to get back into the ring, and he's got both of the guys in the ring with him, about to snap him in half, but he takes them both out by a hit to the groin. There's a street fight, I guess, right?
Yeah, I think that's where the street fight part is. Genes and low blows that really make a street fight.
And they did.
They
I thought it
certainly
was
did.
really exciting. I mean, I kept waiting for him to be snapped in half, and then for him to take over those two big old guys. It was like the little man's risen.
Yes, in wrestling, they usually call that a hope spot. You're getting beat up and beat up and beat up, and then you hit them, and it makes you believe for just a second. It's one of the reasons Drake Maverick is so good, is he's a really good wrestler, he's a really good talker, but also because he is so small, it's very believable when a bigger dude, and Oni and Danny aren't that big, but it makes it better when they are attacking him and he just like crumples to the mat, and he's already a small dude, so he doesn't look like he necessarily belongs until he's in there. So it's a fun way to kind of play off of that. It's one of the reasons that team works so well, because Killian is a gigantic human and Drake is like half of a human.
But Drake's got some fly moves. He's got some.
Yes,
yeah,
he
that
does.
little body can really whip through the air, boy.
Yes, he certainly can. And he's got a bunch of moves in his arsenal. We didn't even get to see all of them here because that's not the story. But if we watch more of this, and especially when he's wrestling by himself, he has a lot of moves he can bust out of nowhere, and they look really cool because he's really fast.
He is.
He is. So unfortunately, they lose that match, and we cut from that to a video package. And this video package is to promote Kyle O'Reilly, who's going to be challenging Finn Balor, who is our NXT champion, in their upcoming match. Now, as some catch-up, Finn Balor is our current NXT champion, which is in NXT our version of the World Heavyweight Champion or WWE Champion. You're the top guy. And Finn Balor won the title a while ago. And then, I'm going to say maybe a month ago, I don't remember anymore, Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly had a match for Finn Balor's title. They had a one-on-one match. It was a very good match. It was very hard-hitting. As a consequence of it being very hard-hitting, Finn Balor legitimately broke his jaw in, I think, 2 different places.
3.
Okay, look at you taking notes and remembering stuff.
I literally did.
Okay, all right. I need you to stop because Matt's going to listen, and I'm the host. All right? I need you to get these ideas.
But I'm the nurse.
I'm a nurse. Okay, I see what you're doing. All right, I see what this is. Breaks his jaw in 3 places. Has surgery. We are unclear as to whether or not he's going to be able to return, whether he's going to have to give up the championship. There's a lot of questions. Well, he heals nicely. He hasn't done anything in the ring for obvious reasons, but in 2 weeks, he's going to be defending the title. Now, on one hand, going to be cool. It's going to be a good match. On the other hand, I know that Finn's going to win. So this is one of those weird things in wrestling where I know who's going to win, but I'm excited to see the match because of the match it's going to be. But they're running it back with Kyle again and Finn. So they're both kind of cutting promos on each other and talking about their last match. And so this title match is going to take place in 2 weeks. It's a regular episode of NXT, but WWE as a whole has taken to the concept of giving pay-per-views or special shows taglines. So when the Extreme Rules pay-per-view was coming along, they called it Extreme Rules Horror Show. There's other ones that I can't remember, but for some reason there's been this edict that they need to put a little tagline. And because it's close to the new year, I hope you're sitting down for this excellent wordplay. They're calling their show in 2 weeks New Year's Eve.
New Year's Eve double.
Now, Mom, I know that went over your head, but you see, New Year's Evil sounds a lot like New Year's Eve.
Hey, they had me going.
Okay, so all right, good, because it's a ridiculous name, but it's fun. So that's fine. I don't know why this match is happening again, but it was good the first time. So whatever, that's fine. I also if I were a wrestler and I wrestled you and you broke my jaw in 3 places, I don't know if I'd be super psyched to fight you again. I don't know. But we have.
How do you know he's going to win then?
Because there's no universe in which Kyle beats. There's just not a universe where that happens, Mother Dearest.
Okay.
You're gonna have to trust me on. I'm gonna look like an idiot if he loses now. That's gonna be funny, but it's not. Nope. Nope. So New Year's Evil on New Year's Eve is in 2 weeks. So we cut to the back, and Adam Cole and Roderick Strong are being interviewed about Kyle O'Reilly's chances. So, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, who are the 2 guys being interviewed, Kyle O'Reilly, who's the challenger, and another guy named Bobby Fish, who's not particularly important because he's never around, are in a group called the Undisputed Era. It's just a 4-man faction. Think like smaller 4 horsemen. And they have been running kind of roughshod over NXT for a while now. So they're talking to his teammates about his chances. Adam Cole says this time they fight, it's going to be a lot different. And that's being a great teammate, but he's lying. So I appreciate your dedication, but they're his boys, so they would say that. But again, just to put a fine point on it, Kyle's going to lose. But it's fine. However, they are interrupted by the Velveteen Dream. This is all right.
The Velveteen Dream in a shower cap.
Yes, in a shower cap and a half shirt. That's pretty standard for him. A couple things you need to know about the Velveteen Dream. You probably picked up on this, but obviously he's supposed to be Prince. His theme is...
No, I didn't pick up on that.
Okay, so...
Now that you say it, I understand why they kept showing the word Prince. I didn't understand that. I thought they'd show a Velveteen Rabbit or something.
See,
Velveteen.
You'd think, yeah. Right? So the Velveteen Dream is basically Prince. He's like in his very early 20s. He's a very good wrestler. And once upon a time here in NXT, the Velveteen Dream was one of the guys that they were building around. And he was one of the guys who people thought was going up to the main roster, Raw or SmackDown, the main WWE shows. And then a thing happened. So for context, Velveteen Dream in real life is a gay man, and that's cool. We love that part. Love it. So far, so good. There has been an issue with the Velveteen Dream. Maybe using his platform and status to message other young men. Again, fine, love that. Part I don't love is that these men were not men so much as boys. They were underage.
Shut up.
Yeah. So.
Nuh-uh.
Yeah. It's the sound I made when he showed up because I knew I was going to have to explain it. So we are at a point now where nothing has progressed further than people speaking about it and some messages coming out. So we're at a point where people who like him are basically saying there was no real proof and charges weren't brought up. And there's people more on my side saying, whoa, this is gross. And WWE did I believe they called it an internal investigation because who's less biased than your employer that makes money off of you? And they found no wrongdoing. So on one hand, no charges, no wrongdoing. On the other hand, super gross.
If it's true.
Yes, correct. If it is true. Now, the problem with having your whole gimmick and character be Prince and kind of flamboyantly sexual is that if you are accused of messaging underage boys, that character now feels more gross than it otherwise would have. So for me,
they just have to take a rumor to bring down someone.
Yeah, that is true. So it's weird because on one hand, WWE found no wrongdoing. On the other hand, Velveteen Dream has now been used as an enhancement talent. He's a guy you put in there with other people to make them look good. That is not how he was being used before this all came out. He's been beaten by everybody he's faced. I honestly do not remember if he's won a match in a long time. So it's kind of a weird situation going on right now. And as it pertains to this show, I've taken to, if he's in a particularly long segment or match, I generally will mention it, and that's it, because it just feels weird. So he interrupts, and he says it's funny how the mighty have fallen, which is ironic for him to say because he's fallen. He says the Dream knows that Kyle O'Reilly is the real head of the snake around here, which makes you a cheerleader. And
right.
Them's fighting words. So Adam Cole slaps him and he falls down. Adam Cole says there is no leader in the Undisputed Era. That's not true.
At all.
Not even a little bit true. And Cole says he's going to run Dream into the ground tonight and calls him a freaking moron because that'll show him. It's like when you meet an adult.
Have you ever heard a Street Fighter call someone a moron when they're about to fight?
Nobody has ever heard a Street Fighter call somebody a moron. It's like when you meet an adult who's like, "Oh, I don't swear," and then they say like "fudge and darn it," like as an adult person, and it's like I don't curse on this show. But man, in life, you better say the real word, man. Like
it's like
that,
an exclamation point. When you say the real word.
It's like adding seasoning to food. It just spices it up. And I need you to know this sentence is important because I put a bunch of words that Matt would be unhappy with me putting in here. By the way, Matt, thanks for the podcast. Thanks for letting me talk to my mom for my podcast. So that is a classic wrestling setup for a match later. I imagine that hasn't changed much since when you were watching it. It's a pretty standard way of setting up a match, is to have cut somebody else off and go from there. So that part, not so different.
It made Dusty Rhodes drool more before he got in the ring.
Oh, by the way, I meant to tell you, I saved this for the podcast because I know Dusty Rhodes is like your guy.
Right.
In NXT, part of what NXT is the Performance Center, which is basically a training center from weights to a ring to video production. It's a whole performance center to take new wrestlers or wrestlers that are new to the WWE and show them either how to wrestle and cut promos or how to do it in the WWE style. But part of that is classes. So obviously you'll have wrestling classes, you'll have blah, blah, blah. But one of the classes that they still have is promo class. And it's teaching you how to be a better storyteller with a microphone. It's literally cutting different kinds of promos to get you ready to talk on TV, right?
Okay.
Would you like to take a guess, before he died, who was the head of NXT's Performance Center promo class?
Dusty Rhodes?
None other than Mr. Dusty Rhodes. I can't.
Seriously?
Yes.
Holy crap. Oh,
so
holy doo-doo.
I don't think crap counts as one of the words.
Oh, okay. All right. Great.
We're totally fine. I can't really think
God,
of
I had no idea he was even still alive.
He's not. Now
No,
he
I mean,
Oh, I
after the
see what you're
80s.
saying. Yes.
Jeez.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So he was running this promo class, and then when he died, like obviously, like Ric Flair and all the guys who knew him were devastated, but the strongest reactions that I saw were from people who came through NXT, and a lot of them were like, I would not have gotten where I am if it weren't for Dusty and promo class at all.
Wow.
So he goes through the 80s and probably even earlier than that, and is one of, if not the best promos of all time. Has 1.5 million iconic sound bites, and then after he retires, he's responsible for helping these young people with their promos. That was just awesome to me.
It really is.
Right? That he got to use that skill, because you can't wrestle forever, but you could probably talk forever.
Excellent point.
Right? I know. That's why I don't fight, because I talk. So we're setting up for that match later, and then in the back we see two women, Dakota Kai, Rhea Ripley. For reference purposes, Dakota Kai's the small one. Rhea Ripley's the one that looks like I said last week she would fight you in a bar because she didn't like the look that was on your face when you came in.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's awesome. We love her. We come back from commercial. Both women are already in the ring. So Rhea Ripley, the badass one, is going to be facing a woman by the name of Raquel Gonzalez. Raquel is the woman that you see interrupting the match later, the big lady. Okay. The tall lady, I should say. She is Dakota Kai's bodyguard. So Dakota Kai is a smaller woman, like short. And she, at some point, a while back now, brought Raquel Gonzalez to be her bodyguard. Did two things. In storyline, it gave Dakota a bodyguard who could help her cheat. And in real life, it was a way for Raquel Gonzalez to kind of get into NXT. So Rhea and Raquel are two big, strong ladies, and they're going to fight at New Year's Evil on New Year's Eve. So this is kind of a setup for that match. So they're having...
when you say Raquel, is that Gonzalez's first name?
Yes, Raquel Gonzalez.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Right. So last week, Rhea Ripley was fighting somebody else, and Raquel came out of the crowd, interrupted the match, and caused Rhea to lose.
Is that why they said she was banned from the ringside?
Okay. So I'm glad you're here, because I missed that they said that. Yes, that is correct.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Mom, you need to stop, because you're making me look bad. Okay,
you're the one who made me watch it.
Hey, listeners, take your earphones out for a second. Mom, I'm trying to do a thing right now, and if you could not make me look bad on my podcast, Matt's gonna message you and ask you to do it, and then Christmas is off, ma'am.
Okay, I'm with you now.
Okay.
All right.
Now, if the earphones are back in, I love my mother very much. I was giving her a pep talk telling her how good she did. She's doing okay, Matt. It's not that. Shut up. So, yes, she is, in fact, then banned from ringside. So, I guess it's kind of a loophole, then, that Raquel does come out, but she stands on the entrance ramp, which I technically guess is not part of ringside. So I guess that works. So Rhea has Dakota in a submission hold, and Raquel walks out and distracts her. So she's still beating her up. She has absolutely no problem beating Dakota Kai at all. That move Rhea hits at the end is called the Riptide. It's the coolest name for a finisher anywhere.
It was terrible. I wanted to run up there and say, girl, that's not nice.
First off, it's not nice, and that's the first
wicked
thing. I don't understand why the fights can't be nice. That's my problem. That's really what it boils down to. That's first. And then she's a big, strong, scary lady.
She is.
And that Riptide looks like it hurts a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it doesn't, but it looks like it does. So we get the 3 count, we get the bell. Raquel is still standing at the entrance. I said, interesting that she didn't get involved in the match. You said, no, you idiot. They said it, so here we are. So they're having a stare down. Rhea kind of beckons Raquel to get into the ring. Raquel starts walking to the ring, but 5 referees come out to try and stop her, but she shoves them aside because she's very strong. Raquel gets in the ring. They're having a stare down. They talk some smack, and then they just start punching the hell out of each other.
Mm-hmm.
So then we get all the referees in the building, in the ring, to try and separate them. But they're both too strong, and they keep breaking out. This is another thing WWE likes to do when they're trying to imprint upon you that these are 2 very strong people, where they have a bunch of people try and separate them in their corners, but then like Rhea would break out and jump onto the pile and start punching her again. So Rhea and Raquel have had one match before. It was very good. When you have 2 big, strong dudes in a match, we call that a hoss fight. And I probably could have researched it. I don't know what you call it when you have 2 big, strong women in there. Hoss fight feels like not the right thing to say. Big woman punch-a-thon, or strong lady fight hard sounds good. Strong lady fight hard. I nailed it. Don't even worry about it.
Really doesn't.
Okay, so now we're just going to be antagonistic to your son's podcast. We're just going to shut down his ideas. That just seems
Can I say something about Gonzalez?
Of course.
She really needs to stop. She really needs to stop hitting with her hand over her head. It looked like Rhea was like tearing her up, and Gonzalez is hitting her back by putting her hand above her head and hitting her like,
Oh,
it's like,
yes.
You need to kind of mainline that one and make it look like a real punch, not like, I'm going to get you. I mean, she was strong, but when she kept lifting her little hand above her head to hit her, I was like, what's that?
That is an excellent observation. I noticed that too, where it's like, I imagine what it is you're like trying to measure it so that it on one hand looks like you connected, but on the other hand doesn't. But Rhea was just straight punching her, and
she was, man.
At that point, it's usually mutually understood that we're both just going to go out here and punch each other real hard. You are correct. I think, and I forgot to look it up, but I believe Raquel is relatively new. And so I think it's a thing where, especially if you're like big and strong, you don't want to haul off, but you are right. She needs to like just take that other hand down.
Yeah.
Rhea is down to punch in the face. She doesn't care at all. So they're going to have another big lady punch-a-thon in 2 weeks. And that's going to be great because they're both big, they're both strong, they do not like each other very much. And that's really all I need for a match. And Rhea is one of my favorites because she looks different, she acts different, she hits different. You can just tell she's kind of got it. And I'm surprised she's still on NXT, but I'm very happy she's still on NXT.
Yeah, she was badass.
She definitely was. This is definitely the hardest part to explain to you who hasn't seen it before. I skipped the first one, but we have a Christmas skit with the Gargano family. They're all sitting around a Christmas tree. I'm gonna try and break this down as best I can. So the white lady with the purple hair, is Candice LeRae. She's a wrestler in the women's division. She's very good. The guy who was recording and doing most of the talking is named Johnny Gargano. In real life, those two are married. Yeah, they came to WWE at about the same time. They're They're very cute. Johnny always says that Candice is a better wrestler than him. That it's not true, but it's a very cute thing to say. So those two are married. Johnny is our North American champion. The North American title is equivalent to like the Intercontinental or United States title. It's one rung below your world title. So those two are there. The other woman's name is Indy Hartwell. That's the most interesting thing I have to say about Indy Hartwell. Next, the other white dude's name is Austin Theory. He's a very good wrestler. And that's really all I have about him. Now, the way that we created this Gargano family is that a while back we had another TV special, and it was Halloween Havoc. They took that idea from WCW, and it was a pay-per-view that always happened on Halloween, obviously. And Johnny was having a one-on-one match with somebody. Did you ever watch the movie Scream?
Yeah.
Okay, remember Ghostface, the guy in the trench coat with the white mask?
Yes.
Okay, so during Johnny's match, Ghostface comes out. And again, I need you to understand I'm not messing with you. This happened. Ghostface comes out, hits Johnny's opponent with a tombstone, and wins the match for him. Later in the night, Candice is having a match, and Ghostface comes back in and tries to help her win. Candice does not win that match. So for a long time now, there's just been two Ghostface that have been hanging out with Johnny and Candice. Now, when you put a mask on somebody, it's usually because you're trying to surprise them with who it is. And I'm not bragging. It really was this obvious that from jump, you knew that one of them was Austin Theory and one of them was Indy Hartwell because they had kind of sort of worked together.
Oh.
So they take off the mask. Oh, my God, it's Indy Hartwell. We know. Oh, my God, it's Austin Theory. We know. So now they're all kind of one big happy family. In a sense, they're the bad guys, and they're bringing up they're a bad guy mommy and daddy bringing up their bad guy son and daughter.
Isn't that sweet?
Right? It's kind of sweet in a super weird way. So they're opening presents, and Indy Hartwell gets a PlayStation 5, and boy, was I jealous. Fun fact about my mother. I got a PlayStation 2 back in the day, and I don't remember how old I was, but I was young enough that when I went to Target to try and buy Grand Theft Auto Vice City...
I remember that.
Yeah, I know you did. The gentleman behind the Target counter simply would not sell it to me and made me get my mom. And I got my mom, and he said, now, ma'am, this is a game where you can attack police and you can hire prostitutes and you can kill people. And my mother said, yeah, whatever. Can we ring the game up? I got stuff to do. Fine.
And he said, this is really not appropriate for a child your son's age. And I said, what are you? The morality police? Sell me you want to sell the $80 game or don't you?
And it was one of my favorite games I've ever played, and it has helped form me as an adult. So thank you for that.
Oh my gosh.
She gets a PlayStation 5, but the box is empty. Johnny says, well, the PlayStation's mine, but your real gift is better. You're getting a family nickname, which was just great. He says, I christen you Indie Wrestling. Now, that's funny for it's cheesy, but it's funny for two reasons. One, because her name's Indy Hartwell, and now she's Indie Wrestling. Johnny's nickname is Johnny Wrestling, because he's legitimately very good at wrestling.
I was wondering why he said that.
Yes.
You're not Indie Wrestler. I was like,
yes,
okay,
because Johnny
Yes,
Johnny Gargano is Johnny Wrestling, and so his bad guy daughter gets to be Indie Wrestling. That's also funny because indie wrestling is also a thing. If you're not in a major company, Impact, AEW, NXT, WWE, you're in indie wrestling, short for independent wrestling. So you see, Mom. So you see, Mom. That's a very funny joke. Now. You see, it's a very totally
gone over. It went over my head for obvious reasons.
That's why I'm here.
Indeed.
That was very funny.
Very.
Yeah, totally. So we cut from that fever dream. Although, because you told me about the Jack Briscoe thing and we're talking about Dusty Rhodes, I did, while I was watching that picture, that segment happening with Dusty Rhodes and Jack Briscoe and like Ric Flair and Arn Anderson or something. And it really did a lot for me, picturing those four dudes in that segment.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? It would have been something, tell you that. This is part of when you were talking about the production values being so good, because it looked like a friggin' movie. It was shot really well.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Like, their cameras are great for a wrestling company. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Really. I know, right? So we cut from that, and we're doing an interview with Toni Storm. And that's the blonde lady with the black tape under her eyes. The interviewer says, now that you beat Rhea Ripley, that was last week, what's next? Toni Storm says a lot of stuff, and she basically says she's taking the NXT title from Io Shirai. Io Shirai is our women's champion. She is, I don't want to misspeak. I forget if she is Japanese. I forget exactly. But basically, she's this lady who I believe English is her second language. She speaks English better than I will ever speak Japanese. And she is just a big old badass who, the fun thing about her is that, and I'm literally, anytime anybody has ever mentioned that NXT women's title since she's gotten it, she is showing up. So, like, if a bad guy is the champion and Dusty Rhodes calls them out, usually the champion doesn't show up. You have to pay to see the champion, so on and so forth. If you mention either Io Shirai's name or the women's title, Io Shirai's showing up and she's going to fight you. She doesn't care. She's here for it. She wants to fight somebody, and it might as well be you. So Io Shirai, I have said, is one of the best champions that we have in all of the company. Because she is very similar to a Dusty Rhodes or a Ric Flair in that she is the champion, but whoever she fights, she makes look really good. And anytime she defends the title, she wins, but she does it in such a way that you believe that if that person were to challenge her again, they could win. So she usually doesn't cut promos because her English isn't to that point, but she gets everything across that way. And Toni says there's a reason that Io is terrified every time I mention that title, because I'm the one woman on the roster she can't beat. Right. So first off, shut up. Second, Io Shirai is like Beetlejuice, but you only have to say it once and she appears. And this is the kind of quality stuff you come to this podcast for. You know what I'm saying? Like Matt, you can replace me of her if you want, but she doesn't have those Beetlejuice references ready to go, you know? So this is one of the few times we've heard Io talk. The interviewer goes over to Io and says, "Did you hear what Toni Storm said?" And Io says, yeah, I heard her, and says, "Hit my music," and goes out to the ring. She does not have her title in her hand because she really just wants to fight somebody. She doesn't care. She walks out. She grabs a chair and a microphone from ringside, and she gets in the ring. She does have a little trouble putting the chair into the ring.
Yeah, a little trouble with that. I was worried about her there. Kind of took away from the effect.
It
really
took
refold the chair. Yeah.
it took away a little bit from the badass persona when you couldn't get
the effect definitely left me at that point.
Yeah, right. It really took everything out of it for me personally. So she gets in the ring and she sits down and she basically says, Tony Storm, come out here. And she throws the mic down and she sits in the chair.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, hell, I forgot this happened. Okay. So music hits, but somebody attacks her from behind instead. I don't know why people never think to look behind them. Because as soon as the music is playing for like a second too long and you don't see the person, they're going to pop out from the other side. The person that came back and is attacking her, his name is Mercedes Martinez.
Mm-hmm.
She's awesome looking, as you saw. Very scary looking. And she's back. She beats up Io and is standing tall. And she's attacked the women's champion, which generally means that you're going to go into a fight with somebody later. I have to try and find a way to explain Mercedes Martinez to you very quickly. Mercedes Martinez is a veteran of wrestling. She came to WWE not too terribly long ago. And then she was brought up to the main roster. And she was put into a group who basically were all different wrestlers who were mad that they hadn't gotten their fair shake in WWE. Like, they were the disenfranchised and you set us aside like trash and now we're coming for retribution. Their name was Retribution. They wore stupid masks. They wore stupid clothes. The story's still going on. They were like a joke as soon as they showed up. They're called Retribution. They all got nicknames. One of them's T-Bar. One of them's Mace. One of them, I swear to God, his name's Slapjack. Because if you're going to fight somebody and their name's Slapjack, you don't want that fight anymore. You know? You don't want it.
You're shaking, man.
You're shaken and stirred, frankly. Mercedes was a part of this group for about 2 weeks. And then it came out that she requested to go back to NXT because you know a dumpster fire when you see it.
Oh, my.
And this is the first time in like over a month that we've seen her, and she's back. So she's the only one to get out of the group successfully, and now she's back. So
she's not fighting fair anyway.
That's the thing is
not
that, and
nice.
I got to tell you, Mom, I'm getting real stinking sick of it at this point. I'm getting real sick of the lack of sportsmanship or sportswomanship in this program. Frankly, I'm embarrassed that I showed this to my mother, that there's just a complete lack of any kind of fair play here. And I'm sick of it. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm sorry you had to hear me speak like that. So she's back. We'll see what she does later, but we're back with the Garganos. Back at Christmas. And Johnny says the last gift is for his wonderful wife. Now,
yeah, okay, I didn't get this at all, so I'm glad we're going over this. What the heck?
So yeah, there's no way on earth that you would have known what that was about. It took me a second, and I watched the show every week. So the thing you saw was basically a broken, mangled, smashed tire or rim. So, boy, Candace, a little while back, was in a feud with a woman named Shotzi Blackheart. I'm going to let that name sink in for a sec.
All right.
You got it? Cool.
Got it.
Shotzi Blackheart is like a cool punk rock lady. She's got like bright green hair. She's awesome. One of the things that Shotzi would do is that she would come out to the ring in like a miniature tank.
Okay.
Like you know when kids have those little cars that have a little like 2D batteries worth of an engine in it and they ride around in it?
Mm-hmm.
Kind of looked like that. Cooler looking, but still a miniature tank. It was just,
okay.
I know, it was just her thing. It's a thing she did.
Okay.
And during this feud, Shotzi was in the ring, and on the video screen, Candice popped up, and she was in the middle of a street, and she said, "Hey, Shotzi, I wanted to let you know that I'm keeping an eye on your tank. You really shouldn't leave it in the middle of the street. Somebody could steal it." And then a monster truck pulls up, and Candice gets in the monster truck. Ghostface is in the monster truck. And Candice drives over Shotzi's tank repeatedly with a monster truck.
Oh.
Right. Which, again, sick of the rudeness. But
yeah, you don't break someone's toys.
Right. It's super rude. You're going to have to replace it. That's money out of your pocket. Who did you hurt but you? You know? So she breaks this tank. Shotzi is, Mom, when I tell you she was devastated, she was devastated.
Oh, Lord.
I've never seen a grown woman cry quite the way I watched Shotzi cry over her toy tank.
Wow.
Yes. So eventually they get through that feud. Shotzi gets another tank, thank God. And they move on. So that tire, Johnny says, is the last piece of Shotzi's tank. He said he dug through the waste for 17 hours to find the last remnants of that tank for her. So there was no reason for you to know that, because that's insane.
Yeah, that's pretty stupid. I still don't get it, and you've explained it to me. Okay.
Yeah, and that was the most succinct way I could put it, and I still feel confused, and I watched it happen.
Jeez.
Okay, but Mom, in fairness, if I ran over your tank, you'd want to fight me too. So, like, you know?
No, I wouldn't, baby. You're my baby.
Yeah, but it's your tank, Mom. You know how you are about your tank. Yeah, exactly. That's what I thought. So they end up taking a family photo, and they all take a pose. Austin Theory is, I would like to say for the record, he's eating protein powder with the scooper right out of the jar. And that made me laugh really hard because I'm a little stupid sometimes. But him just eating protein powder straight was hilarious to me.
Because he said he wanted to be just like the guy that had the camera.
Yes, he wanted to be just like Johnny, which is funny because he's big. Which is
funny because he looks bigger than Johnny anyway.
He's bigger than Johnny.
Just saying.
Yeah, I will say Johnny is shredded. He's ripped. He's got like abs on abs, but Austin Theory is bigger than him.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as somebody who used to drink protein powder with water and not even milk, there's no way I could do it. I could barely do it with the water mix. Yeah, right? And then we're on our last lap here, and Timothy Thatcher, the white guy, is out here with Leon Ruff, the skinny black guy.
And can I just say, do they not weigh these people to see if they are like way about the same before they let them go into a ring together?
So
seriously?
Yeah. It's an interesting thing because in wrestling they used to do that, or they used to at least give you fake weights for the people so that like they were close. What they do a lot now is they will put a bigger guy in there with Leon Ruff, especially has done this a lot because he is so skinny that they will put a bigger guy in there with him, have the bigger guy destroy him. The theory being it makes them look like a monster, a dominant kind of thing, but really it looks like you're beating up a kid on the playground.
Yeah, right.
Interesting note about Leon Ruff. Not but a couple of weeks ago, Johnny Gargano, who was our North American champion, had his first championship defense against Leon Ruff. And rightly so, Johnny did not take that seriously at all because he shouldn't, because he was fighting a child. During that match, Leon Ruff surprise rolled him up the same way he does in this match and became the North American champion.
Did he retain it?
Great question. He did with help from somebody else. He was kind of it was this weird story they were telling that it didn't really go anywhere, and Leon Ruff was champion for like a few weeks, and now he's back to just kind of doing nothing. So they just kind of threw it on him for a second, and it was kind of cool, but it was also like, this dude looks like a twig. Timothy Thatcher dominates the whole match. He beats him up pillar to post.
Indeed.
Yeah. Leon Ruff is really good at selling moves, and he's really small. So he's like the other guy where he's very believable when you're beating him up because it looks like you're going to kill him.
Mm-hmm.
So he's beating him up. Leon Ruff surprises him with kind of a surprise pin and gets the 3 count. So you get Timothy Thatcher beating him up, and then you get Leon Ruff to at least pin him so he didn't get beat up for nothing. Fine. It makes Timothy Thatcher look dumb.
Yeah.
Because you just lost to a child.
Yeah.
But okay. Go ahead.
That was hilarious. Even when Ruff was made this big deal about, he caught him with the clothesline, and it was like this little man child with this little bitty arm sticking out, this big old guy running up. Oh, they got him with the clothesline. I'm like, nah, that's at best dental floss. At best. Little bitty man-child arm.
Feels like maybe we needed like a drop kick there, something that had more force.
Something, a little more realistic.
Anything really would have been good. At best, that's dental floss is a fantastic line, and I'm proud of you.
Sheesh.
So Timothy Thatcher attacks Mr. Leon Ruff after the bell as he is upset. You shouldn't be upset with anybody but yourself, bud.
Right.
And Tommaso Ciampa, who's the guy that runs out. And he does his apron DDT. That's the DDT through the ropes. Looks like you're giving somebody brain damage. Lays him out. And Ciampa says, you want to fight? I'll see you in the fight pit.
Yeah. What the heck's the fight pit?
So, the fight pit is a match type that we have only seen one other time in NXT. It was Timothy Thatcher, a guy named Matt Riddle, who is like the character from every stoner movie who's the white guy with long hair who talks like this kind of dude. But then he would wrestle real well. Doesn't wear shoes in the ring. Interesting fact about Matt Riddle.
Okay.
Seems like a problem waiting to happen, but whatever.
Yeah.
So a fight pit is kind of like a steel cage mixed with like an MMA cage.
Oh my goodness.
And it kind of feels more like it's more of a fight than a match. It's like a more modern version of a steel cage. And it only happened that once, and I remember thinking it was a really cool idea, and I hoped that they did it again. Turns out they're going to. Now, interesting fact, Timothy Thatcher won the first fight pit. Also, Ciampa and Thatcher, the two gentlemen, have already had one match, and Ciampa, the guy with the beard, won that match. So usually in wrestling, that means the other guy's going to win. So it's kind of Thatcher's, like, going to be his specialty match kind of thing. So they're going to have that match in 2 weeks. And
then I liked it how Ciampa ended it with a kiss.
Yes, he did.
Gave Thatcher a little kiss on the forehead.
Yes, because see, this is nice. That's a nice way to do it. You can be nice.
I don't think it was a nice kiss, honey.
It was a kisses are nice. You put a child to bed with a kiss, Mother. You of all people should know that.
Ooh.
So they're going to have their match. Fun fact about Tommaso Ciampa, the guy with the beard. Usually when you're in NXT, you're in an NXT for a short time because you go to Raw or you go to the main show.
Mm-hmm.
You get paid more exposure, so on and so forth. So usually people want to go to the main roster.
Mm-hmm.
Tommaso Ciampa has made it clear that he will retire before he leaves NXT, so he ain't going nowhere. He's like the only person who's ever been like, nah, I'm good, I'm going to stay here.
Well, if you're comfortable.
Yeah, he's very comfortable. He's real comfy. So he's staying. He's not going anywhere. So that's going to be really fun. And then we have our main event that you just finished up a while ago of Adam Cole and the Velveteen Dream.
And the Dream.
So his theme music is absolutely supposed to be Prince.
I don't know about that, but that bump and grind he was doing on the ring floor was hilarious.
Yeah, he's a character.
He's a character.
Back when all of this wasn't a thing and I thought he was going to be moved to the main show, I was really worried how they were going to use that character, because that's the kind of character that you could very easily not take seriously at all.
Mm-hmm.
And so the main roster has a long history of taking people from NXT and not knowing what to do with them. They just kind of are like, this person looks cool, well, what do we do with them? And they usually mess it up. And I was pretty sure that they were going to do that with the Velveteen Dream. It doesn't seem like that's going to be a problem anytime soon now. But that's where we are. And these are two of probably some of the best wrestlers in NXT. Certainly Adam Cole is, probably Johnny Gargano from that Christmas skit, Ciampa from the last one, are some of our best wrestlers. And the Dream is actually one of them at like 22 or 23. And so they have a really good match. And these are some guys, you can't just throw them into a match. You need like a story. These two guys are good at making the story in the match, which helps because Adam Cole slapped him and then they had a match. So it helps that they do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, right? And so these two have feuded before, and they're still very good together. Adam Cole ends up winning, and we kind of go off with that. And then a little bit more with Kyle O'Reilly and Finn Balor. So we kind of set up a bunch of stuff for our show in 2 weeks that we're going to go forward with. Mm-hmm. So, while that is the end of the show, Mom, what did you think?
I think that it was really good. I could have done without Dream getting back up on the ring ropes, because I think he may have torn, ACL or something. I was a little worried about that.
Yeah.
But overall, I thought it was really good showmanship. I mean, it was really good production, and it was really interesting in it. I mean, it had me going with every story. I mean, except that Christmas thing in the between. That was a little,
Yeah.
If you're gonna be weird, you need to be really weird. Like,
it wasn't weird enough, was it?
Right.
Yeah.
It was just kind of odd. But the actual wrestling was way beyond what we used to see with fake blood. Back in the graveyard junkyard dog era and what I used to watch, but I found it really intriguing.
Go ahead.
It was really good. I mean, it made me really want to watch the New Year's Eve thing. I'll have to be sure and be with you around that time so that I can make sure that you pay for the actual pay-per-view if it's a pay-per-view thing, but I would let you pay for me to view.
I see. Well, that's very nice of you. Couple notes then. One, it actually isn't going to be a pay-per-view. It's just going to be a regular episode. It's just going to be like a super episode. So
okay.
the same way you watch this one, you can watch that one.
All right.
Interesting fact from the Junkyard Dog days and everything like that. Mm-hmm. That was not actually fake blood. Do you know how they did that?
No, how?
Excellent. How? I'm so glad you don't know. Through the history of wrestling, when you saw somebody bleed, or you saw Ric Flair's hair turn red from blood, or Dusty Rhodes, or whoever,
right.
You ever notice how Dusty Rhodes' forehead was super messed up?
You know what? I was going to say, because Dusty was always bleeding from his forehead. How?
Wrestlers would take a razor blade out of a razor. They would clip off generally the corner piece of that, so there's just enough. They would wrap tape around the base. They would then wrap that either in their cheek or in their wrist tape or in their trunks, or the referee would hold it. And when it came time, if you and I are in a match and you hit me on the head with something, I would go down to the mat, I would procure the razor blade, I would run it across my head and cause blood.
Are you serious?
I am so serious.
That's sick.
Yeah, I know, right?
Wow. That's dedication to the sport.
Yeah. So every time you saw somebody pop up and they were bleeding all of a sudden, they were bleeding.
Wow. Okay, then.
I forget if it was like 2006 or 2008, somewhere around there. WWE put out the mandate that you couldn't do that anymore because they were becoming more family friendly. And in fairness, that's not family friendly. And so now,
well, you want a fun fact?
Yes, I do.
You never got to meet your great grandfather, but
right.
One of his jobs when he was in his 20s, so that must have been in like the 30s.
Right.
Was that he used to be the person underneath the ring, and they would have microphones held up to the mats so that when the wrestlers would throw down their opponent, it would make a loud noise. And he was actually the sound effects manager.
Was he really?
See, you came by it honestly.
Wow, I was born into this.
Hey.
That's a cool job.
Family reference to wrap it up for Matt.
See, not bad at all. See, the whole family's good at it, Matt, but I'm the only one that gets the podcast, Matt.
Because he has the microphone.
That's true. I didn't even have to set it up, really. Just had to plug it in. My job's way easier. Okay, well,
yeah, I really enjoyed it, even though it was, Christmas morning. I did enjoy it. It got me out of cooking for you.
I can't think of how you would have rather celebrated Christmas.
There you go.
Yeah. So then, I am very glad that you enjoyed it, and thank you for allowing me to bug you for
Thank you for having me on your podcast.
You are very
fan.
Of course, that is very true. If I don't send you the podcast at the same time every day, I will get a text message like, I'm working tonight. Where's my word I can't say on this podcast?
That's right.
Yes. So I got to bug you about this. So maybe in a week or two, you can interview me about your wrestling, and we can kind of see the differences.
Oh, that would be fun.
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go to the archives and pull out some fun facts to flare you with.
Absolutely, I can't wait. Well, in that case, that means that our time is just about up. So again,
good thing, because I got to go hit the kitchen, so I got to go. I'm done with you.
Well, there you go. I'm done with you.
I love you.
I love you too. Thank you,
Bye,
Mom.
baby.
Bye.